Hello, everyone. Welcome to the WARPburg Infusion Entertainment Review. It's time for episode 67, barreling our way towards episode 69 here on June 1st, which is actually my brother's birthday. I just texted him a couple minutes ago.
Happy
So if my
birthday.
phone goes off, that's what it's about. But yeah, he's 1 year closer to 30. So we are going to today talk about Ted Lasso. The finale was, of course, this week. It was last night. They moved it back to 3 hours, which was super weird. We'll get into that in a moment. But before we do, I suppose I should introduce the co-host, and that's Patrick, a.k.a. Mr. Fusion.
Greetings and salutations, everybody. Let's talk a little football
Or soccer, because we're
or
American.
soccer.
And the British made that word up. So you know what? Fuck them. That's the word we might use.
At least I know the offsides rule, and so does Ted Lasso.
Yet,
We've confirmed
that was a fantastic callback. I cannot lie.
Yeah.
So, Ted Lasso finale, we're going to jump right into it. None of the usual rigmarole. We'll save that to
No.
the end when we do our preview for our plan for the next 2 episodes.
Yep.
That's when we'll do our, what we're watching, plan, some thoughts on other media we've been consuming over the last couple of weeks. We are, of course, live over at twitch.tv/MrWartburg. We got Pathos in chat and a few others who were maybe lurking around. And of course, Pathos already caught an audio bug when we started the show, so I appreciate our live audience. And of course, head over there if you want to partake in the chat and let us know as we discuss these things live. So, Ted Lasso finale, like I said, was last night, or maybe yesterday morning, depending on when you watched it, because it didn't come out at the 8 p.m. Central Time, Tuesday, that the entire rest of the show has ever done.
Yep.
They moved it back 3 hours. Didn't tell anyone.
There was
until
a reason
the day
why.
of.
Yeah.
What did you see here about why they did that?
Yeah, Brandon Hunt, who plays Coach Beard, was on a Reddit AMA, I think either AMA or an interview recently, yesterday. They basically post-production team was up against the wire with VFX. That's what happened. They were pulling a South Park here, man. They traditionally
So they didn't have it locked?
They didn't have it locked because I think it was the season 1 finale he referred to when they had like the match. Yeah, the relegation match. That was season 1, right? The end of season 1.
Yeah, where they lose and get relegated.
That match and that episode, finale episode, had 100 visual effects, right? This one had 600 VFX shots. And he said they were literally day of still working on post-production. Like they had their post team like grinding it out to the last minute. And so basically the reason why, I mean, they didn't realize it was going to get pushed back till the afternoon. And they didn't want to make a big hubbub about, announcing it's being pushed back because of production. So that's what Brandon Hunt said, I think, yesterday on Reddit. Yeah.
Okay. Well, at the same time, there were definitely some shots there at the end they could have just not had.
I totally agree.
Couple in particular, I'm sure we'll get to about the actual ending montage sequence. But so just as a fair warning to anyone who is in chat or watching or listening on any platform, we are going to talk spoilers. Just full spoiler warning. But I mean, if you clicked on a Ted Lasso finale video, you probably know that. So we're just going to dive right in. But Fusion, your initial instant reaction coming out of the finale, hit me with it.
Knew exactly what was going to happen. We kind of saw the writing on the wall season. You and I would talk about it. Not shocked. Was okay. Was a pretty decent finale. Wasn't great. They had its Ted Lasso moments that we like. Overall, I thought it was an okay ending to this arc of these characters. That's the episode. Wasn't bad. Wasn't amazing. Wasn't bad. Was like, okay, I get it. There's some of it, like you said, could have done without, but I get it. And I think they tied up some things really fast in this episode. And we can talk about the season itself in a minute here. But from the penultimate episode to this episode, one thing I liked about last episode was we got emotionally heavy into the backstory of Beard and why he had a hard time with Nate, forgiving and moving on, right? And accepting him back in. That was cool. I liked we had finally got to see why Beard's a little bit off his fucking rocker, right? Makes sense. I didn't like this episode in that we just kind of just moved on with Nate. Like it just, because that was a big hanging point, and we could talk about this season with Nate in a sec. But ending last season, the whole saga with Nate joining Rupert on his new team, that felt like this. There was something that felt like a big point, and I thought when we got to the penultimate episode about joining the team again at the end of it, this episode, it just, I know there was catharticism there with his character, but I wasn't a fan of that. I wasn't a fan of that. The Lasso stuff, I knew it was coming, man. We both knew it was coming, so it was fine. It was fine. It wasn't a great ending. It was a good, enjoyable episode. But as far as like finales go, it didn't blow me away. It wasn't like a Breaking Bad because let's be real, we don't know what's gonna happen next. They don't even fucking know.
Well, I mean,
Like,
remember,
oh,
same thing happened with Lawrence's Scrubs. Like,
yep,
once JD left, they did continue. It was never
yep,
the same, but they did continue.
yep.
So that's not an unprecedented.
It was a. I'm gonna say fair because I don't want to give it too much to where somebody like a listener thinks that I'm praising it because did it stick the landing? It stuck the landing, but it wasn't a very
It was
like
a semi-shaky landing for me.
yeah, a little shaky. Yeah. Go for it, man. Your
So
thoughts.
for me, it was much like the season as a whole. Like it
Yeah.
kind of sums up the season. Like there
Yeah.
were some standout moments. Like the this was episode 12, so 11,
Yes.
9 and 8, 9, 10 fucking standouts. Like and even 6, like the mid-season one with the total like Ted's maybe not drug trip. Like
Yeah.
the Amsterdam episode. That run that like 6 to 10 episodes, holy shit, everyone's like, the show's back, right? Like, it's found its legs, and then it kind of didn't at the end.
Hmm.
At least in terms of, it seems to be mass audience reaction. Again, not bad. Nothing in this is bad. It just didn't hit the highs that it has before, and that's perfectly okay. I mean, while it is award-winning television, it's not exactly going for that. You know what I mean? Like, it's going for that kind of comfort, dramedy, and more heavy on the comedy kind of storytelling. And it just also happens to be really good, you know?
Hmm.
And so I think it's not a bad thing that it's not a straight out 10 out of 10 finale. I think it's a little disappointing given where the last finales have been, especially season one finale was excellent. With Tart making the extra pass and then Lasso seeing his dad abusing him in the locker room and everything, like,
Yeah.
and knowing where they're getting relegated and then they're going to win the whole fucking thing, basically the major league arc.
Yep.
Like that the finales of seasons 1 and 2 were really really strong, and this one just wasn't, but it also wasn't bad. So it says eventually it sums up season 3 as a whole.
Okay. Okay. For me as a whole, the season was very meh. I'll be very
Yeah, you
okay.
were
Like,
far more. I would say you would probably put it a rung down than I would, probably based on
yeah.
our reactions over the last couple
Yeah.
months.
And I think it's because we both knew when, like, because we didn't watch both. We didn't watch this season, the first season together. You watched it, and then I went back and watched it, and then you were like, "You got to watch it." I went back and binged the episode one weekend, and I was like, "Holy shit, fucking fantastic!" Right? And then we both got on the Ted Lasso train. I when I think about what happened here, we both knew the origin of the character. We both knew that going into this, that Hunt and Sudeikis did say that when they pitched this idea, it was in their minds of a 3-season, like an arc, a 3-season arc to this character. So we both knew going into this season that this possibly could be the last season, or they go in a different direction after it. But for Ted Lasso, this would be it. But then the way Sudeikis was going in interviews, talking it out, I get it. This season was really to set up everyone else,
Mm-hmm.
and I liken this, and I know you didn't watch the show, but I was a big fan of the the first 4 seasons of Orange Is the New Black over on Netflix. Phenomenal show, great writing, all that. But Genji Cohen has this problem, just like Glow and Weeds. After season 4, and she's not the primary writer; she's a showrunner, but she also writes a lot of the episodes for these shows. After season 4, on a lot of her shows, it falls off the rails, and I don't know what it is. Maybe it's just she runs out of steam and doesn't know where to go to next, or like the next step is to go extreme. This one, I felt like we were going to. I felt like they didn't really know where to go in terms of like with Ted in this season because they knew that Ted's arc was going to end. Outside of the very ending, what was going to happen, right? Him going home, right? Winning the final match, maybe winning the title, which they didn't, but going home. That was the ultimate thing for him, right? An enlightening moment of, like you stated on the sidebar with me. He's there with his dad. I mean, he's there with his son, which, like, hey, He's going home to his son. His dad couldn't do that for him, you know? So it's like a big moment for him, right? Very pivotal and a significant moment for Ted. Um, I just thought like, hey, we're setting this up way too hard. And in the process, they didn't stick the landing as a season in building out a lot of the things because in season two, I thought Jamie Tart took a back seat. I thought he took a major back seat for a big chunk of the season. This season, I get it. He kind of jumped in and out. I really think they did a disservice to Kaylee. I did not like the what Kaylee's arc in this season. I thought like for her in the first season, she was a very empowering person. You find out why she's a very free spirit and does her own thing, even though she's with a younger guy in Tart who's immature and all that. Ends up with with Roy Kent in season two. They build their relationship. I really think they did her a disservice this season. I did not like her character, did not like her arc. It just seemed really all over the place. Same thing with Nate. That whole thing, how he ended last season in season two, like I thought he was going to play a major role, and it just was a very meh role. And then it's like, oh yeah, we gotta, you know, fix his character, have him have a redemption. Okay, rather than it being a season long redemption, it's more of like, okay, he's still a good guy, he's still goofy, he's still Nate, but he also is the asshole when he needs to be on the field. But then at the same time, okay, we're just gonna kill it, go right back to him being good Nate again. Did not like that at all.
Well, I
So
would
there was
disagree
some
there because I
okay,
think they were intentionally setting up that Nate was falling into that trap of perpetuating the cycle of abuse that he had
sure,
gone through and
okay,
has experienced in his life. And then he had made because he has this not just because he's with his girlfriend, but like it offers an opportunity for a clean like kind of come to Jesus moment,
okay,
where he sees the world for what it truly is and his place in it, and he's just like fuck it, I'm done. Like, and I think they were setting that up. And then, of course, his conversation with his dad, their confrontation was fantastic. And then the
yeah,
scene with the violin and him playing and the speech from Rebecca over top, like that was some fucking great storytelling. I just think the issue with this season was that they were spinning their wheels too many places and sometimes simultaneously.
yeah, yeah.
And I don't know if that's a factor of they were stretching it out to 12 episodes intentionally, whereas last year the last two were tacked on, and the rest of the show was written as 10 episodes. And then thus this year, does that mean they didn't have enough meat on the bone, or they didn't know how to properly grease all those wheels at the same time?
Okay.
Like it just seemed like they like, especially with like Danny Rojas's character, basically just turned into entire comedic relief. Whereas last year he actually had like a little bit of things, like the opening episode where he accidentally kills the dog,
Yeah, yeah,
that
yeah,
kind of
yeah.
thing. And this episode, this season, he really doesn't have a whole lot to do besides breaking his teammate's nose. You know, so obviously they follow more with Sam because he's one of the
Yep.
leaders of the team.
Sure.
McAdoo doesn't really have much beyond some on the actual playing soccer stuff and the one episode with Colin. But it just seemed like they didn't quite all get all the pieces humming at the same time,
I think
except
the
for a few
Zava's
episodes.
I think the Zava stuff was unnecessary.
I think it. I think it was unnecessary. I think they had a missed opportunity to have him come back and play for West Ham
That would have been cool,
and
but
have Jamie be the one that ends up beating him.
the thought of Zava, okay, so he comes in, he's such an overbearing, polarizing personality on the field as a player and just as a person in general, to where he dominates the team, right? So they think that this is going to kickstart them. And that's supposed to be with him just being like a whatever personality and leaving and retiring. It's supposed to leave them shell shocked even more so than they were beforehand, right? Because when the season starts, they are what? They
They've
haven't
had like
lost
7 or so draws.
draws, yeah. So he's supposed to be the impetus of them finding total like the idea of playing the total soccer stuff, right? That's
Mm.
that's that's like they're desperate for something to kickstart them, and Zava is supposed to be the catalyst. You could have gone without him. Honestly, if it hadn't been Zava, if they had been just struggling, and then there could have been infighting, like there could have been other ways to resolve it without having Zava there. I think he kind of pulled away from Danny Rojas, like you said, with McAdoo. Like I know Colin's character, like we there was a other struggle. Like with the guys that ended the season on the team that are probably or more than likely going to be, bigger build characters if this show if the team spins off into their own little story next season, um, you could have done it without Zava.
That, or
I
I
think
think they, like I said, like with the 10 episode structure, I would have rather have seen him spurn what like AFC altogether and just sign with Richmond or West Ham originally,
uh
and then also use that via his relationship with Nate and have Nate realizing like, man, I really hate people like you.
yeah,
And like that kind of thing. And maybe he's the one that like kicks Zava off the team, and that's why Rupert fires him and all that. Like not to pull a this is what I would have done, but it just seemed
sure,
like with the 12 episodes and inserting the Zava for like 2 or 3 episodes, they pulled the focus away from characters that they thought they were only going to have 3 seasons with. Like, why introduce a new character that's pulling all this focus
yep,
now?
yep,
Obviously, they wanted the impetus, to motivate Tart and, you know, foster that bond between Kent and Tart, but, like, that didn't need to happen just because of Zava. Like, Jamie Tart was already on that path
yep,
at the end of last season.
yeah. When he goes and he gets into a fight with his dad after the game,
Yeah. But he
that
was
that, that
already on
was
that road.
he was on the path for like this growth arc, and so I didn't need Zava there, and it just kind of felt kind of weak because it's like we built that, and maybe that's how I felt leading into season 3 was we're building that up for Jamie, and then Zava shows up, at the beginning of this season, and Jamie just kind of takes another backseat. I know we're like, oh, he's training, but it just felt like, okay, we're moving forward with Jamie, and then we're going to take a little step back to have this Zava piece because we have 12 episodes to fill. That's it could be that also that combined with they had an idea that this was Sudeikis's end, like the end of his arc on the show. The future of the show itself could go in a different direction, but that they were going to wrap him up. So let's take a little bit of a step back with Ted being the primary person on the show, more so letting all the other characters. I think they could have done a better job. Honestly, it wasn't awful, but I love season 1 and 2. I thought those were like you have season 1 and you have season 2, and then in a distant third to season 3. It's not awful,
Agreed.
but it's like
Yeah.
it's just
It's better than most stuff on it. I think almost all stuff on
no.
Apple TV still. It's
Oh yeah,
just, it's
definitely.
not the highs of what won the Emmys.
No, no. I mean, this season's going to win Emmys, and I think a lot of it is just momentum from the first 2 seasons. Honestly, that's
Yeah.
really it. Like Brett Goldstein's going to win another one. Sudeikis will
Well, the
maybe it
Roy Kent,
won't.
his character was one of the standouts too.
Yeah,
Like,
and that's why, like, if we move forward, I'm okay with Roy Kent being like one of the leaders of the new show, but you have to make sure you have that balance with him because his character needs that balance. And like Tart, that was one of the better things was their relationship being built was the comedic bond between Jamie Tart and Roy Kent this season. I enjoyed that. I really did. Like the whole mom thing. Like when you meet his mom and Roy's kind of eyeing, it was real subtle, like, but like just eyeing his mom, like, oh shit, she's kind of hot. That was fucking funny to me. I thought that was hilarious
especially
because it's just
after Tart and his sister and Kent's sister. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So it's one of those things where like there's little pieces that you can grow off of into if they do a spin-off, and all the cast, I enjoy them. Like I enjoy all of their roles. I think like this, like I said, the Zava thing just felt like we gotta insert this to get us to that next that next part of the season, that next arc in this season. And I wasn't a fan of that. And I'm not saying it fell flat on its face because it didn't, because the writing and the acting of everyone carried things along. And Hannah Waddingham is a fantastic actress. Juno Tempo is great. I just thought she was misused majorly this season. Did not like her character, like her story
And
this
again,
season.
if it was a little shorter than the whole Jack arc, probably doesn't happen.
Yep.
Beyond the whole maybe funding thing.
Yep.
And then you have the central crux be her figuring out how to be an actual boss, like with her friend.
Yep.
And like that's her struggle. Like that worked. That worked the best part for her. I just didn't think the Jack stuff was
No.
really all that engaging.
No.
Again, because it's a character we haven't seen before, and we're trying to get invested in this relationship that we know is coming to an end because the show's coming to an end. So, like, yeah, I
So
know.
can I say this though? I really enjoy the fact that they really liked fucking with the fans to open the show.
Oh
This
yes, they did not mess around.
they like they knew exactly the type of response and what was going to happen going into the ending of the penultimate episode. So they knew exactly how to open the show, and that was hilarious because you're like, "Uh-oh." like it's it's he walks out into the kitchen. It's like, oh my God, that he's not leaving. And then Beard comes out. You're like, oh really, guys? Like he's I appreciate them going a little meta there.
Well, then
And there
because
were
like
actually
the people that really believe that, because I use Tumblr for the gifs because
yeah.
they turn their gifs around, and I don't know how they get them so high quality. I've never been able to do that, and so I'm reading all these people just freaking out over Ted and Rebecca, and I'm like, guys, he was like fucking her best friend.
Right,
Like, do you really think that would happen?
right.
Not at all. Not in any world. Not to mention the power imbalance that she's been on the other side of, and of course she would know. Plus, after everything with Sam, be like, no, I'm not doing that again. Nope, nope. And you'd already have her had an episode with her in Amsterdam where clearly they were going to come back to that guy, and that of course happens in the finale.
Yep.
Like, read your subtext,
Well,
not
yeah,
incorrectly.
the other thing is we've established in the first season alone that Ted can build healthy relationships with women, like friendships, because at
Yeah,
the very beginning he like bonds with Keely, but there's nothing there on either side. Like not everything has to be controversial. Like I know American television, everything is like boiled and
yeah.
and
This isn't
and,
the
and
CW.
sexual like tension and everything people do on our shows in the US. This was written like a British show, a British comedy with a good like Americanized perspective, but we get all of the British snark, which I love. My wife doesn't
Yeah,
get it. I
you
fucking
get the
love it.
British humor with the American fish out of water.
Exactly. But I'm not gonna say this was a bad season. It wasn't because there were several episodes, like you said, that I really enjoy, and I think that when we look back on this season, we're gonna think of okay, it's gonna end up becoming a placement holder for whatever they do next. It's going to really end up being like, yeah, it was a placement holder season to get them ready for where whatever they call it, whether they call it the Richmond Way, which I think is a stupid way to call it. I think just call it AFC Richmond and it'd be fine. You
Yeah,
know,
that are just
uh,
AFC.
the great AFC or Greyhounds, the Greyhounds.
Yeah,
I
the
don't think
Greyhounds would
calling it
work.
the Richmond Way just doesn't hit. But
Or they're moving to a
um,
different league. Call it that league name. Because more the Champs League, the Champions League.
they're in the Champions League now.
You
Yes.
know, like something like you could do something with that. You know,
Yeah,
like you said, like I would give overall, I'd probably give this season like a 7 or 8 in that kind of range.
that's fair.
You know,
Yeah.
if you go with the high side, some of those moments are really some of those episodes in mid season are fantastic.
Yep.
So there's certainly no wrong way to look at it because obviously it's comedy, it's art. Like if you like it, you like it. But that's where I'm coming down on it.
Okay. I really enjoyed the Amsterdam episode. I thought that was hilarious.
Yeah,
That was
once it
really
all comes into focus, they're doing total football. You're like, okay,
beautiful.
I get it now.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that
But,
episode
like, it
worked.
was that, the Colin and Trent Krim story and, like, the team trying to figure out where to go, and Jamie and Roy having their own little bike ride thing, learning how to ride a bike, like, all of that stuff. Like, there's just so many things about that episode that remind me of, like, the first season, how like, the first season had a couple of episodes. The charity ball, I likened it to that episode, and the Christmas episode in season 2. Like, they all have that kind of that same energy, like that just kind of like, okay, we're just going to do some random stuff around a football match, right? And that felt a lot better. And I really wish, no, I don't have any wishes. I really think like, hey, I understand like this was a vehicle for the next step. And if the cast have stated they don't know what's coming, they're going to take a break, which, okay,
And obviously, there's a strike happening.
there's a strike
There might even
happening.
be a
And so,
SAG strike, like
yeah,
maybe a
yeah.
DGA strike. Like,
Yeah, the DGA
okay,
one just yeah.
that might get
It
fucking wild.
yeah, yeah, just the fact that we had SAG at first saying, "Yeah, we're
And I
gonna
would
go
I
on
would be
strike."
stunned if they don't authorize to strike. Stunned.
I
Because like
think the
everyone I follow, every single person I follow on social media is like, yeah, I voted yes. And
yeah,
obviously echo chambers happen and everything at social media, but I mean, it seems so pervasive that they're all on the side of like, no, we're this ain't 2007. We're on the writer's side, motherfuckers.
yeah. The
You
fact
know,
that, within days SAG jumped in, but then last week the Directors Guild jumped in and said, "No,
and then
we're gonna."
HBO stepped in it.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah. Oh God.
like with everything with the Max launch, and it'll take
The
days to
Max,
fix like the credits thing,
the
which breaks all the contracts, and you're like,
oh, the contract, yeah, and then they're trying to do the perpetuity with AI, like sneak it into
well, that
deals,
was
like
Netflix.
oh, I'm sorry, that was Netflix. You're right, but just like the studios have not looked very good.
Yeah, they
They
just
are
keep
not
putting, they just keep stepping in it.
negotiating in good faith. And now that you have all three power playing unions involved here, it's gonna come tumbling down on them. It really is pretty
Yeah, so
fast.
if they don't give
How
them a good deal, June, July, July on is going to be everything's going to not just grind it to a halt. It's going to slam on the emergency brake and like ditch left.
Yeah, and if you're not keeping the score, a lot of the Ted Lasso crew, they're doing the media rounds and they're supporting all
Oh
of
yeah, like
they're supporting the
they were on the
strike.
strike line on like at
Yep,
outside WB
yep,
on the finale day.
yep,
Like they're not pulling any punches, and good on them because that entire model, like, it's a joke. Like now we're going back to cable, like Verizon's bundling Paramount, Showtime, and what was the other one? Might have been
uh,
Netflix. Like
maybe
the
Netflix.
bundling them as for a cheaper price. Like, oh, so it's cable again. Cool.
Yep,
Like we're gonna have to kind of go back to that leasing model of content, which we're starting to see. Like like HBO sold the Batman show to I think Amazon or was it Netflix? One of the two. The Bruce
I think
Timm Batman show that he's coming
I think
back
it's
for.
Netflix.
Yeah,
Netflix, I
like they
think.
sold it, right? Like they're
Yep,
basically what the old model used to be on network and early cable, you know. So and WB sold Ted Lasso. Like Apple bought
yep,
that. Like they
yep,
didn't. It's an original, but it's not entirely Apple original. It's a leased property basically, or I guess bought property. But
yep.
I don't know how all that deal specifically works, but it's a different model, and we're gonna
And
have to go
Disney's
back to that because that's what made money.
Yep, and Disney's trying to force Comcast his hand to sell their stake in Hulu, just so Disney can turn around and start licensing off shows that are Hulu based that are still in production out to other
Yeah,
networks. I mean,
exactly, and that's what makes
it's
them money
so
because subscriber
uh,
base, subscriber numbers, they all learned. Oh yeah, there is a wall, and
yep,
once you hit that wall, you have hit the wall.
yep,
There is no recovering from that. You have hit the wall. So they're gonna have to pivot and get away from the assuming infinite growth all the time, which everything about that sucks. And so in the short term, it's gonna be pretty rough for everyone involved.
I mean, hell, you mentioned it yesterday. Peacock is offering a 12-month deal right now.
Yeah, for cheap,
I
20
mean,
bucks.
19.99.
For 12 months, which is that's a great deal for a
I mean,
consumer.
hell, if you're a wrestling fan, you get the WWE Network alone.
Yeah, you get
That's
all of Prime
SummerSlam.
NBC comedies
Yeah,
right there.
Prime. Yep.
Like I think they have a lot of stuff that's not NBC. Like they have I think
Yep.
Battlestar Galactica and
Yep.
a whole bunch
Yep.
of
Yep. Yep.
stuff. So
So yeah,
back to
I
Ted
mean,
Lasso though.
Ted
Sorry,
Lasso.
random tangent. It's what we do.
um. So yeah, I agree with you. It's somewhere between 7 and 8. I'd probably give it closer to 7 than an 8. I'd say it's
And
even like
that sounds
this.
about right given our overall thoughts on the season.
Yeah.
That I'd be a little higher than you.
Yeah.
So, yeah, for me, standout moment for me for season 3 would have been I believe episode 10, and that's the one
Okay.
with the Super League storyline,
Yep.
which obviously the stuff with Zaba they were trying to go with was it Slot? How do you say his name? They were parroting a real
Um,
life soccer player.
I think so. Slot. Yeah.
Like they were parroting him and it was I think too long of a parody. Whereas the Super League stuff was like an on the nose, like, hey, this was a really fucking stupid idea, wasn't it? Football club owners, with Sam Richardson.
Yep.
His character comes back, his billionaire character, and only for the one episode, which is a great way to use a character like that. And obviously, we get a little more stuff with him and Sam because of everything that happened in season 2, and then you also have their Super League meeting with Rupert and Rebecca. And on top of that, at the exact same time, Nate's playing the violin, and then Rebecca's speech about football/soccer.
Yeah.
That's the best parts of this show.
That's the
stuff like
dartboard
that.
scene. That's the dartboard commentary.
Yeah, that's
from the
that's
first
the
season.
season's like barbecue sauce moment.
Barbecue sauce moment. Yeah.
And then right after that awesome moment with Rebecca, you have this super cathartic moment with Nate and his dad.
Yeah.
Where it all comes kind of into focus for me of like, yeah, Nate has been a victim of not just Arrested Development, but I mean like his parents didn't know how to raise him. because he is an actual like genius is maybe thrown around too liberally, but like as a smart, rather smart individual, his parents didn't know what proper level of expectation to push for him, and then that basically fucked up his whole life because he didn't live up to his own expectations that he thought his parents wanted. And then that
Yeah.
just perpetuates over and over and over again and it kind of becomes self-abuse. And then in this season, you see him kind of work past that, which and it kind of all comes to culmination in that moment, which I thought was really nice. So that the end of that episode, that last 10 to 15 minutes is just peak Ted Lasso for me. What's your best parts of this season?
Like I said, the Amsterdam season
A lot of great
episode
stuff in
was
that.
a lot of great stuff. I really enjoyed. For me, that was where I really enjoyed the Jamie Roy stuff. Like, where are they going with this? But then it was less about Keeley, more about them, right? And I think like just Keeley kind of being inserted at the end of that into their relationship again. I understand it; it's logical, but I think they just kind of shoved it in to wrap up this season.
Well,
Um,
I also think
yeah.
it's smart for them to not complete that story. Like, she shut the door
It's
on them.
Yeah, and I liked that part of it, but what I meant was just, her relationship with Jack. Just it felt like boom, it was done so quick, and then okay,
Yeah, it
then her
seems
and
like if that hadn't happened,
boom, boom, boom.
we'd have
Yeah,
been further along on that story
yeah.
towards the end.
Oh. Like we could have, and the way it went down with Jack was basically her dad and her company weren't happy about Keely's video, right, and
Yeah.
her personality, but but they knew who Keely was before they offered to fund her
Yeah, like
business
clearly she's
because
got topless like posters all over the country.
yeah, she was an Instagram like
Yeah,
nude
and it's the
model.
UK. It's not like over here
No,
where we like everyone's a prude, right? Like whether you know it or not. Like we've been raised with an in far different context for sexual content
thank you
than the
evangelical
UK.
Christianity in America, but
Yeah,
yes,
like
yes,
puritanical is not a wrong word to use towards America when it comes to sexual content and drugs compared to most of Europe. So that whole bit with Keeley and everything, it just seemed like an unnecessary plot point. Like then the whole leak thing. It was just one episode, and then Jamie mentions it like once or twice,
yeah.
and that's it. I guess maybe two episodes, but like it's it just seemed unnecessary.
Pathos. I have three been to Amsterdam, so
See, I have not.
yeah.
I have never left
Oh,
the country,
okay.
but obviously
Well,
America's huge, and I've been around a lot. I just haven't
we're
left the
gonna
country.
we're gonna we're gonna have to drag you to Amsterdam
Well,
at some
actually,
point.
I'm meaning to get my passport because I do want to go visit the UK and Germany
Okay.
because they have family over there. So,
Yeah. Yeah, it's not everything's boiled everything anymore in the UK. There's actually good food there. So
oh yeah, they
like
have great
it's
Indian food.
yeah.
I love
Oh,
I love
actually
Indian food.
actually they have really great
As long
Indian
as I
food
can
in
be like,
the
hey,
UK.
can you do me some like make sure it's all the vegetables are completely purified, like in
Yeah,
like the
there you
curry
go.
sauce and stuff. Because like
It always interests me where some areas
digestible, it does not agree
yeah,
with me. If it's
like some
purified, I'm golden.
some ethnical food is better in different like the best Chinese food I've ever had is in Canada. In Canada. Like yeah. I
Yeah,
mean it's whatever best Italian food I ever had was in New
I
York. I
agree.
mean that makes
Pathos.
sense.
Like I'm a sucker for. Honestly, I like American breakfast. Like I technically French toast is a thing that's not
Uh-huh.
all American, but how we do it is American as fuck.
The beans are weird. I'm gonna
The
admit
blood sausage, weird as fuck.
yeah,
Okay,
blood sausage is just weird. But the beans with eggs is
it's like that is
now
so much heavy shit.
yeah.
That's like okay, bacon, sausage links, not the
But you know
lightest.
what? But who am I to judge? I'm of
Hey,
Mexican
I ain't gonna
origin
yug
where
anyone's yum. I'm just gonna be like that ain't for me.
we
Okay,
eat barbacoa, which is beef cheek, and then we have beans and like sauces that are spicy. I can't judge. Hey, whatever. Not my
but then
wheelhouse.
again,
English,
we say biscuits and gravy, and over there they'd be like cookies and gravy, and I'm like, no, motherfuckers, cookies and biscuits, they don't mean the same thing.
but
Learn
doesn't
how
but
words
doesn't
work.
but doesn't fish and chips sound better than a fish basket? I mean,
Agreed,
fish and
it
chips just
does.
sounds great. It sounds
Yeah,
great.
yeah, it totally
It's
does. It's just the fact that they use biscuits synonymously for cookies and what we call biscuits, like they don't exist over there. mind blowing to me.
Don't even get me started on the whole boot thing. That's what this
It
show.
it destroy like I was talking. I think it was to Croft. I'm like, how you guys don't know what biscuits are? Like our
Yeah.
biscuits, you don't have them. I'm like,
No.
that's why. Like you guys don't have Cheddar Bay biscuits?
No,
What?
there's a Brit that moved to the US that like reviews food on YouTube, and one of the very first videos he does is biscuits and gravy, and he's just like, "What the fuck
Yeah,
is
it is
this?"
incredible
He's just like, "It's so rich," but he goes, "It's so fucking delicious.
because
Like
it's
this is
so fluffy
amazing."
with the biscuits. If you
Yeah,
get the right fluffy biscuits with a thick white pepper gravy and some sausage
yeah.
ground up in there, ah, ha, ha. Best breakfast food in the world.
Southern breakfast is amazing, man.
Oh
Southern
yeah, chicken
breakfast
and
is
waffles.
amazing.
Let's go.
Chicken and waffles, you know. Look, I know we're
Back to
sidebarring
Ted
this.
Lasso.
Look,
Sorry, that was our
but you know
food
what?
tangent.
But the point is like they took so many of these cultural elements from like Lasso and Beard being state Midwestern guys and implementing them here, implementing them in the UK, getting rubbed off on like the culture stuff. Like there's so many things that I think about. Like I'm going to look back and say this was a really good like series, where the third season wasn't the best of the three. That's fine. Now, where they go from here, I am interested because this season was all about table setting. The finale, the final montage could have been done a little better. I thought it was like you said at the very beginning.
I
Yeah,
would have
there were
been
some
fine with a
shots in
Trent
there.
Krim voiceover.
Yeah, yeah.
And the
Just like
guy's got the voice
yeah,
for it.
just reading what happens to everybody with a couple of short shots. You don't have to. Yeah, I agree. That would have been a good way to end it.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
do the voiceover with the montage, and then you fade in on the bookstore, him reading out of the book. You close the book, and we see the cover fade to black.
Do we have to read into that wedding shot at
Okay,
Stonehenge? People are
okay, if
reading
number
into
one,
it
it's been
really deep.
months because she's pregnant. Ted's not there.
He's not there.
Are you shitting me?
Yeah.
That's insane. That's when I'm like, okay, that shot does not need to exist because
No.
I'm like, think of the implication. So Ted just says, "Fuck it." He must have got paid millions too.
Yeah, I'm sure he
Like
did.
so it's like he's rich. He just didn't go overseas for his best friend's wedding. Are you kidding me?
And every
A guy
and
he let steal his car and then
yep,
still got him out of jail, gave him a
yep,
job, changed his
yep,
life in multiple ways. He's not there for his
yep.
wedding.
And who also changed his life in a lot of ways when they went to the UK, on top of people that he got so close to that changed his life in a different way as well. Like, I mean, no matter what we want to say about like the whole is it a romance or not, Rebecca and Ted had
Yeah.
a really deep bond together, as even though it was owner and coach, there was a deep bond that they built because she needed him to get over her phase in her life with the affair, with the divorce, and with the revenge plot and all that stuff. And she helped him understand that life is a lot more than just this singular line of thinking, right? And I like you, man. When I saw that, I was like, they're gonna regret that shot. No matter what happens next, whether like they move forward without Ted Lasso, or if Sudeikis says, "Fuck it, let's do a season four where we flash forward a couple years and Ted comes back and helps them win it all, the Champions League, right?" That shot makes it all look weird because why wouldn't he be there? Why wouldn't he be there?
Yeah, like for me, so
Yeah,
prognosticating for if they do continue. I didn't think Beard was going to stick around as a regular, but clearly they're
he still
setting him
may.
up too. Because I always figured he'd go with Jane and would come back sporadically to be kind of a sounding board for Roy
Okay,
because he's in the country. But as a regular, it works because he's an assistant coach at heart. Like he doesn't want the head job,
yeah,
and Nate probably knows enough to not want it, because of how it affected his life.
yep,
And outside of the weird shit in season 2, I thought him and Roy's interactions were always solid. So that doesn't bother me, him being Roy's assistant at all. I kind of pegged that. But if they're going to do season 4 as a different, sequel series, you got to imagine they're going to be setting up for some ultimate showdown. Maybe they're going to finally beat Manchester for the title, and like everything's falling apart. Like all the emotions are frayed. And who walks in? Ted fucking Lasso, right? Like
yeah.
he'd show up for the finale. So like that's what I'm imagining would happen.
But it
It's,
makes that Stonehenge shot seem
it's so
really
bizarre. It
odd.
just seemed it was so jarring too, because the rest was all not CGI, at least entirely CGI.
That was
That
a
was
really bad CGI
obviously green
shot.
screen because no way they were gonna let
Yeah.
him shoot at Stonehenge. And I'm like, yeah,
No.
Beard's an eccentric dude, but like, the government's not gonna let him do that no matter how much money he's got, right? Like they
No.
don't let do they let weddings happen in Stonehenge?
Far as I understand, they do not let anyone unless there is
Because it's
a
a UNESCO site,
touring.
isn't it?
Yep. Yep.
Yeah, like that just seemed completely out of place. Like I could have seen them doing it in Amsterdam, like because clearly that's like, t- his spiritual home, right? As a character,
Yeah.
like it just seemed so out there that it jarred me at the end. So it just didn't need to happen for me.
Obviously, you bring up a big point because if they're going to do another season where it's just the team without Ted, he's going to make a cameo at some
Oh
point.
yeah,
Let's be real. He will make a cameo.
either
If it's
I think it's got to be in person. I don't think you cop out and do it over FaceTime. You
no,
got to have him show up as a surprise. I think you got
but
to
if
do your
it's
best to hide that he's back.
yeah, but if you're talking about it being like a conflict, it's got to be something major for the team to come together, where Roy has a heart
I was
attack
gonna
or
say, does
like
someone die?
someone passes away, maybe Rupert dies and but like
Oh,
something
I was
happens.
thinking, does a character's dad die?
Yeah,
Like one we've seen
yeah,
would be Sam's dad. The rest of the guys'
yeah,
dads, obviously Jamie's we've seen,
yep.
and that whole thing, I
That was
get.
too swift. It was a too swift because they teased it like, is he dead in the match? Right? They're like, his
Yeah, I
dad would
thought
have
they
been
were gonna say
proud.
he died.
Yeah, that's what seriously like because they're like, oh, his dad would have been proud. Like would have been
Like his
proud to
friends,
meet
do his
these.
friends think he died?
They might think that. I don't know.
Like that. There was a lot left unsaid
Yeah.
that could have better fleshed out character moments, and Jamie and his dad was one of them. It felt like with less characters on the board, that would have been given more time. So it is just what it is.
But it wasn't a bad like the episode overall wasn't bad. I just think there were a few things that could have helped stick the landing there. Now Ted, the airport scene with Rebecca, I loved that. I thought that was really good for them to have a little bit of a closure. I'm happy that they went with the direction of her not selling the team. Now, could she bring in a 49% investor that could create problems if they go into a new
I don't
season?
think they can because
Um,
they did the Green Bay Packers thing.
oh,
They
that's
sold
that's
to
fair.
fans.
They sold the fans. That's right.
Now watch May. May is now primary, secondary shareholder. That'd be awesome.
Or you have the idea of Rupert quietly going and buying all their shares from them. That could
I could
be
see that, but honestly, after how he was, kind of humiliated, I don't think that would happen unless
you have
he tries to do that, and then it's the bar patrons that tell him to fuck off.
now it could be that, or if they want to go crazy American style, you have a Kufu buy up 49% because
I think if they bring him back, he's gonna own another team.
that's he should be the villain the next season,
Yeah,
right? If
they
they
have
yeah,
him be the one that bought West Ham
yeah.
from Rupert.
That makes a lot of sense. I like that because the Super League was destroyed when they all couldn't. So his dream of that. So then I got a good deal on West Ham, from Rupert because
Yeah,
Rupert wanted to go retire in peace. But there's certain angles you can take here, and they never really truly closed the book on like, hey, you're never going to see Ted Lasso ever again if we go forward with the show. But I think that shot at the end makes it a little problematic because it's like he should have been there for his best friend, you know? He
yeah,
should have been there for
and
his
it's
best
also
friend's wedding.
possible that was just a snapshot shot, and like all of a sudden, like a car pulls like they reshoot that scene, and a car pulls up, and it's Ted. And like, sorry, my flight got turned around. Like,
Or they could just be assholes about it and show like at the beginning, the premiere of season 4, where you're in Beard's house and there's a picture of them at Stonehenge and Ted is there, like just like they did this episode, the finale, like kind
yeah,
of like
they just act
just to
like the shot didn't happen.
just to fuck with people, like the reactions, the criticism. They did that at the beginning of this season finale. They could do that at the beginning of next season, like where they're just you're in Beard's house and like he's in the kitchen or he's in his office and there's a big picture of all of them at Stonehenge and there's Ted right there, just like, hey, okay, like that answers your questions, guys, and your concerns. Like we moved and we just move on from it,
Yeah, that seems
so.
very fitting with Ted Lasso.
Yeah, but man, I am gonna miss Sudeikis playing the character regularly because I thought it was a very different thing having this very wholesome approach to storytelling in a rated R comedy, and it worked.
Yeah.
It worked. So
So bird's eye view kind of series as a whole. Obviously, for me, the standout moment will forever be the barbecue sauce scene.
yeah,
I mean,
yeah,
that's absolutely incredible. But I got to give a shout out to some of the callbacks in the finale.
yep,
Ted finally understanding the offside rule. As soon
right,
as he started laughing, I'm like, he understood the offside rule. Excellent callback that goes all the way back to the original NBC Sports commercials. So like
yep,
all the way fucking back. Then you have
yep,
the 1-for-1 recreation of the look at me, give me the ball, I want the ball, from season 1. And
yep,
this time Jamie's like, I got this. I got this, coach. And it works, right? And we get one last barbecue sauce from Ted when Sam sinks it. Like
yep.
excellent callbacks on the actual play design and stuff. It just for me, nothing is going to ever top that. You know, be curious, not judgmental scene in season 1.
Yeah.
That moment is like just absolute perfection. And for me, that's what cements this show as one of my favorites of all time.
Yeah.
I'm not sure where it'll fit in the top 10. It's towards the bottom because it's not as wall to wall strong as some of the ones at my top, but it's definitely in the running for the top 10 conversation.
It brings up that whole idea of we're in a crazy era of content, of shows, like just top quality shows on different
Yeah, like
networks.
Marvelous Miss Mabel ended this week, and I haven't watched a single episode of it.
Oh man, it's a good show, man.
And my parents love it.
And Secession, I haven't watched
Didn't
it. I
watch
don't
a
know if
single
you have,
minute.
but
The
people
most I've
say it
watched is
was
that guy
quite
doing the
good.
Brian Cox parody about M&Ms. That's the most I've watched of Succession.
But apparently it's a fantastic show, so it's
I
something to
agree.
watch, I mean, but it's just because there's just so much out there, and then we have Strange New Worlds kicking up again, and I've watched Citadel on Amazon, which is a really, really good show. Reacher's coming back, like there's
I
just
finally binged all of season 1 of Reacher.
fantastic first season, man.
I would
I don't know
say
with you.
solid. It's just it's a type of show that doesn't 100% hit with me because it's Mary Sue, the main character. Guy knows
Okay,
everything, does everything, is perfect at everything. I'm like, I get it. Alan Ritchson is awesome, but like, are you kidding me? Some of the stuff this character knows, I'm like, okay, how is he a 39-year-old MIT like scientist and also a super badass Army Ranger? Like, that's a bit of a stretch.
okay, okay.
But that's a
I
problem I have with
like.
the books too.
Okay, well, I think I love the
It's
fact
just
that
the genre. It doesn't vibe with
it's
me.
I love that it was very true to the books
Yeah,
versus the
from what I've
Tom
heard,
Cruise
excellent
films.
adaptation. It's just
Yep.
the source material and me don't vibe.
That's fine. I mean, that's like Wheel of Time. I have friends that love Wheel of Time. Can't get into Wheel of Time, man. Never
Yeah,
could. So, but an era of great shows, and for me, it's going to be hard because I'm a huge Sopranos fan. I love The Wire. If we're talking strictly comedy, Cheers, MASH, some amazing shows. I say if we're talking straight comedy, it's I would have to really sit down and like redo my list, but it's hovering in the top 10. I don't know where, maybe at the bottom of it, or maybe it might be 11. I don't know, but it's hovering towards the back end of the top 10, honestly, of TV shows,
that's fair enough.
of comedies of all time, because I'm not a huge comedy series fan. I like my drama more, but I'm not a big Friends fan. I love Cheers. I loved, MASH, but then I think about a few of the other ones like are we talking variety? Are we talking sketch in there included? Or are we talking
Yeah,
just
just
straight?
animated count because like some
Yeah.
animated comedies are incredible.
Because
Speaking of
Harley
Star
Quinn to
Trek,
me is
Lower Decks.
Lower Decks is great, but
Lower Decks is amazing.
to me, Harley Quinn is one of the best comedic animated
Agreed.
shows out ever. It's just
It's
fucking
amazing.
hilarious.
Plus, you got stuff like
Um,
all the
yeah.
Netflix ones. Like there's a lot.
I mean, it's hard just because the last 10 to 12 years, there's so many great shows have come out, man. It's
Yeah.
crazy to think that. But
So
I'm gonna miss this show if
agreed.
they don't bring it back. I hope they do spin it off just because I think that the way they've structured it with the characters themselves, there's a lot of depth to these characters. In the first season, there was so much depth built out. So I think that like going forward, we don't necessarily need Ted Lasso. The problem for me was I think they really tried a little too hard to make sure we lived on without Ted in this season. So yeah.
Yeah, it's like for me, if they're going to continue, there's one thing I think they need, and it's not just that Beard that fills this role. I think they need to bring an American player in
I agree.
because
I agree.
not because Beard gives you the kind of quirky, you know, that kind of stuff. You need that, not fish out of water comedy, because I don't even think you need the guy to be a Ted. I think you need him to be more like an American Roy in
Yeah.
terms of what the team needs.
A struggling soccer player
I don't think
in
struggling
America.
because American is generally seen as a lower league. Like have him
Yeah.
be an ascendant talent in the American league,
That
but he's got that chip on his shoulder because everyone, including the Richmond players, look down on him being an American player.
yeah.
And have him come in and maybe not dominate right away, but ingratiate himself to the team. Like one thing I was surprised Ted Lasso never really touched on. All the other things with soccer that they did, there's a whole lot of international racism in those leagues.
Oh yeah.
Like you go play in some of those stadiums, it is like not to be like a prude, but like that shit literally some of the things like whole sections would be kicked out of stadiums over here if some of that stuff happened. And obviously we're no stranger to things happening, but like you don't have entire stadiums chanting like racist stuff. You know what I mean? It's a different culture about it. And like I was surprised they never hit on that with this show. Cuz a lot of the other stuff they did. You even touched on whether or not a gay character should come out to his teammates in a professional
Yeah.
league. You touched on the Super League thing, real world stuff. You touched on, real world player parodies, like things that happened in those leagues. It's like, I'm surprised they didn't do anything like that. I could see
Well,
them
they
doing
got
something with that in season 4.
I think theirs was more of social awareness, like in season one with Sam being aware
True,
of
they
the
kind of
of the
did
oil
get there
company and
with
yeah.
him opening the restaurant, but it was more local around their team than like in other
Well,
stadiums it happening.
well, they laid the groundwork in season one where Banter became their company their jersey sponsors because of the I forget the oil company. Oh no
True.
no
Yeah, it
the
was
air
the
the
oil company.
airline
Yeah, the airline company. Yeah.
the airline company and the oil spill and all that stuff. So like that for me was okay. They're more socially conscious in in terms of like socio-political versus like cultural political. I think is it's kind of a weird way to describe it, but like because the team was really accepting of when Colin came out, they were like, okay, all right, cool, it's all right, mate. Like just statistically speaking, someone on the team's going to be gay. Like here's the only thing, and I agree with you. I think an American player trying to earn his way within this team makes a lot of sense. Only catch, he cannot be a Midwestern country, like, hill country accent kind of guy. Like, we can't have a Ted Lasso player.
Oh
It
no,
just
no,
would be
not like
like,
I actually. I was thinking you could do a different like the Upper Midwest is significantly different than like Kansas and South.
sure,
Like that is a
sure.
major cultural difference, and you could use that as a funny like. As an American, we would get that, like have the guy like Ted Lasso would never say "ope," like somebody from Iowa definitely would, like
Yeah.
the "ope, let me sneak right past you." That is a very Upper Midwest kind of thing. Doesn't really happen in the South.
Or maybe we make him being like a hardcore kid from like Compton.
That could be true.
I mean, it's
There's a
good. Like
lot you could do. Have it be
that's a culture shock because of how the doors are unlocked. People just walk the streets at will, and just like no big deal. Like things like that can be like a really big social culture shock to somebody that grew up like that played at USC or played for LA Galaxy. It's coming over here to learn. Like there's an opportunity there, and I think, I'm not gonna try to tell them what to do, but there is an opportunity there. But I do agree with you wholeheartedly. If we go with another season of this team, having an American character come in trying to learn his way, and find his place with this team, that would be a really good sub story. And I do agree. Beard is more of he's that quiet know-it-all, at the end of the day. He has answers to everything. He's that sage that provides a little wisdom
and the
here and there
quirkiness, yeah.
and the quirkiness, and he's obviously the batshit crazy guy, which
Who
I
yell
like that
about
they
Jimmy
found a
Page
balance in
versus
him.
who was the other one they were yelling about?
Uh, the guitarist. It wasn't Joe Walsh, was it?
Yeah, Walsh versus Page.
Was it Walsh?
Yeah,
Okay.
and I was like, guys, the easy answer is Jimi Hendrix, but
No, the easy answer is Stevie Ray Vaughan. Okay, we're
for
done
the
here.
era they were talking about though,
I know. I'm
yeah,
kidding.
for
I'm
that
kidding.
era, it's Hendrix for sure.
Okay,
Sorry, we had to have that debate. Had to.
but it was
So
such a great debate. It was
that
such a
was a
great debate
great moment, and then
because
that's
it
another
just came
standout for this
unhinged.
season. I wanted to give that one. That one's on my sheet. Roy's first press conference.
Yes,
That whole story was just excellent.
amazing,
Right
amazing
up there
comment.
with
Like,
season
yeah,
one, Ted talking about Earl. Right up
yeah,
there with that. Excellent stuff.
yes, yes, yes,
Also,
yes.
got to give a shout out to Trent Krim's many amazing T-shirts. They did not miss. Ending with the Golden Girls shirt. Are you kidding me?
Oh God, that was
Yes.
great. I loved it. I
Perfect.
loved it.
No notes. All right. So that's I think our kind of overall thoughts on Ted Lasso.
Yep.
Of course, if you're in the comments, if you're watching live, if you are on a platform listening, want to let us know. Let us know what you thought of the show and the series as a whole, and whether or not we were completely off base. So for me, let's talk what we've been watching playing. We've been talking a little bit about it around this episode. I finished Star Trek Resurgence last night in a 5.5 hour stream, which I did
Wow.
not expect to do. I thought I had 3 hours to go. Nope, had 5.5. I started at 8 o'clock. That was really stupid. That was really dumb because I paid for that this morning. Oh my god, Dramatic Labs made so many just baffling decisions. Like when you're trying to aim for the phaser, it pulls you left for no reason. It just does. Okay, and it wasn't my controller. I tried a second controller. It just pulls you left. Subtitles that don't match what the characters are saying at all. Like characters that don't like or love something you say for no reason at all. Like stealth stuff that sucks, mini games that suck, straight out of 2010 gameplay. But holy fuck, that story is incredible. Like, goddamn, that was a great Star Trek story. And we are starved for good Star Trek content.
Oh yeah.
Like, we haven't had a good Star Trek story game that's like definitively good as a story. What, since Klingon Academy?
Think
Like
so. Yeah.
98, 99? Like, it's like Invasion, not a good story. There was that Shattered Universe one that wasn't very good.
The
Like,
MMO didn't have really a
yeah,
story to
it's
it
an
at
MMO.
all.
It's not a
Yeah,
narrative
yeah.
structure like a single player game. Like for single player experiences, we've been starved since that Interplay 97 Starfleet and Klingon Academy series. As like, yeah, these are just good stories in the Star Trek universe. And this one nailed it. As Pathos mentions in our live chat, they go some deep, deep TNG lore, season 1 TNG lore. Work in Ambassador Spock, bring in Portal 6-3 with the Takan Empire, and it fucking works. But as we were playing, I kept thinking, man, what if BioWare got a hold of this? Right? Like, I'm talking peak BioWare, Mass Effect 1. Like, that kind of story structure. Because that would still give you the decision making, make your own choices, but with significantly more modern gameplay. That to me would be the perfect game. You could even remake the Starfleet Academy game. Remake that. Maybe do it with the TNG cast instead of the TOS cast like that game. I think that'd be perfect. Even do that full motion video that they did with all those actors. And I think that'd be the perfect Star Trek game. But Resurgence was a lot of fun, just maybe not worth $40. Wait for it to drop to 20. That's my thoughts. Fusion, what have you been up to with for content? Obviously,
Just
you saw a movie today.
yeah. So I've been playing a Fortnite. That's my only video game right now, which I'm happy with that because it's a great. I don't have much time. But I went and saw an early private screening because I have a rewards membership with a certain theater. And I got an email very, 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 very early in the morning that hey, we have an members only screening of Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. So I went and saw it. That movie is fucking fantastic. Good God. I will tell you, If you're prone to getting really like, it can cause seizures in some people. It's a bit flashy, but if you watch the first one, you know exactly what you're signing up for. Man, when we struggle talking about multiverses with Doctor Strange, like we immediately got Everything Everywhere All at Once being the best multiverse movie, so to speak. They really nailed it with this one. I'm gonna tell you that right now. I mean, you guys have an idea of what's coming because you've seen enough of the trailers, but it's good, man. It is really good, and I know it's a trilogy series. I'm ready for the final one in this trilogy. Like, just sign me up. Do 4 or 5 more. I'm giving it a solid 9 out of 10. Yeah, solid 9 out of 10.
That sounds good because
Now,
I know Chris has similar thoughts.
yeah, I know Chris went and watched it right after I did, and he was like, "I got my popcorn," and then a few hours later, he's like, "Oh my fucking god!" Like, I want to. He's going to go watch it again tomorrow. Like a
Yeah.
day later, he's back to
I'm
back.
seriously debating going tomorrow, but also I have new golf clubs coming in.
Oh,
So
so
I
that's a
kind of
tough
want to
one.
go to the driving range tomorrow.
Okay,
At least I only got two clubs. I went with a 4 and a 5 iron because I don't have them. I have hybrids. And I can't hit them for shit. So I'm like, I want to replace them with straight irons. And let's see
okay,
what happens. Got some tailor-made 2019 M2s.
nice,
Which are nice
nice, nice,
clubs.
nice.
So, but I'm very looking forward to Across the Spider-Verse. I have tickets for Saturday. Gonna go see it with Joey. Sunday, to talk a little behind the scenes with the podcast, we're gonna record with Gamma Caruchador.
Yep.
Sunday mid-afternoon. We're gonna do that. Maybe play some Fortnite afterwards. We'll see.
Maybe.
We'll see
Yeah.
what happens. We'll talk shop with that. Um, and then later this week, I got to DM Chloe yet to see if she's actually gonna see the movie. I would assume she is. Just don't know if it's gonna be, excuse me, opening weekend. But Transformers: Rise of the Beasts out for episode 69. I think that's the perfect way to bring in episode 69.
Yes.
And then we'll do 70 the next week with the Flash. So we got hits coming, man.
And the reviews of the Flash are it's fucking great.
Yeah.
The reviews on Transformers is that it's not bad, like it's actually pretty decent. So it's like, are you really gonna give me a good summer of movies, man?
And
Like, are you
then
really
right
gonna
around
do
the
that?
corner, Mission Impossible: Dead
Mission-
Reckoning
Oh my
Part 1.
lord!
Oh fuck.
And we're missing another movie because Dead Reckoning is
Ju-
August, right?
no, July 10th.
July
July
10th.
10th or 12th,
Okay.
something around there.
Okay.
It's right after
So
RTX.
okay, so June is okay, so early June is Flash. Second week of June is Flash.
No, third
Okay.
week.
The third week. And what's in November? Oh, Marvels is in November.
Yeah.
But
Now, A
I'm
Secret
missing
Invasion is the June show.
okay, that's the TV show. But I'm missing another movie here. What am I missing? God. I'm thinking of some oh, Dune, but that's in November.
Yeah.
That's November. Okay. Man, like
Oh,
come on, man.
Oppenheimer. Oppenheimer
Come
and
on.
Barbie are coming out. Those are the other big
Oh,
two.
yeah, yeah. And I know you guys watched Sisu. What did you think of it?
Sisu fucking ruled, dude. Oh my god. That movie
Oh
was
man.
incredible.
I
The hype
remember
was entirely on point.
the first trailer I saw for this was at John Wick 4. And like and it just was like this version of like blah 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 version of John Wick, right? What is it? The Siberian version of John Wick is what they titled it or something. But like in the theater, people were like, we were all just sitting there and they're showing this trailer. At the end of it, some guy just goes, "Sign me fucking up for that." So then when I watched it, I was like, "Fuck, good God, man!" Like
That movie
movie's
kicked
solid.
so much ass. Like,
Yeah.
it is the best way to watch Nazis get destroyed in quite some time.
Oh
Like,
man.
maybe since Inglourious Bastards.
Oh, Inglorious Bastards that was very cathartic. That was a cathartic movie,
Yeah, like,
even though history didn't go the way it actually, but it was very cathartic to think
yeah,
about that.
like, the Sisu just, man,
Yeah.
imagine World War II, Nazis must die, plus John Wick, and a little bit of Mad Max Fury Road.
Yes.
Boom. You got yourself a great movie. Great time. So speaking of great times, episode 67's been very fun.
Yeah.
So thank you, Fusion, for hanging out as always.
Thank you as always for having me around, putting up with me, so we can talk shop.
And Pathos, you're our live guest tonight since you've been in chat. Thanks for hanging, as well as for pointing out the audio thing at the beginning, because that would have really sucked. Because we don't do backup audio. We just say fuck it and do it live.
Yeah.
So I will be back probably tomorrow night streaming something. I might do Warhammer, that new bolt gun game.
Okay.
And then Sunday, podcast with Gamma Caruchador, talking Across the Spider-Verse and nerding the fuck out. which I'm very excited about. So until then, see you all around. Bye.
Goodbye, everybody.